Week 14, top 15 kick is heading into the week. Number 1, Justin Tucker of the Baltimore Ravens. Tucker, he actually missed a field goal within 30 yards last night versus the Dallas Cowboys. That was a shocker to see, but Tucker, he still had a good fantasy day. He's still the best kicker, in my opinion, in football. And this week, he's got a matchup versus Cleveland, where this game, I think it's going to be a lot of field goal attempts and a low-scoring, tight ball game between these two teams. So Tucker, I could see him hit double digits easily in this one. And he's the number 1 kicker, hands down, each and every week. Number 2, young Hoku of the Atlanta Falcons. This guy, he's a points machine, and another indoor game as well here for Koo versus his former team, the Los Angeles Chargers. This Falcon team, a lot of 50-yard attempts Koo's had over the last few weeks and this season. And once again, I think Koo is going to get that 50-yard attempt and hit it. Koo, he's good for one of those or two of those a game is Koo. He missed one as well. But this guy, he's putting up crazy points, and sometimes he puts up more than your number 2 running back at a kicker position. So he's very valuable. He's one of the best kickers, and this week I got him number 2. Number 3, Harrison Butker of the Kansas City Chiefs. He's got a tough game versus the Miami Dolphins, but the Dolphins, their type of defense that bends but don't break, but they're versus a tough team here, obviously, in the Kansas City Chiefs. But Butker, I think he's going to have another good game. He's going to have attempts. Last week versus Denver was his best fantasy game of the season, where he hit a bunch of field goals, and he couldn't miss. So Butker this week, more of the same I could see if Kansas City can't find the end zone on a couple drives. Number 4, Will Ludz of the New Orleans Saints. We saw Lutz last week. He got banged up with a little bit of a tight hamstring, but no news has come out if he's hurt or not. And this week he's at Philadelphia. Lutz, he's one of the most consistent and accurate kickers in all of pro football. This guy, he's money just about each and every week for double-digit fantasy points at the kicker position. And if he's healthy, he's the top 4 or 5 option. So right here versus Philly, he's going to get opportunities. I think they're going to move the ball pretty well versus that Philly defense, and he's going to get a bunch of chances. Number 5, Tyler Bass of the Buffalo Bills. Tyler Bass, once again, another good game he had versus the San Francisco 49ers, and this week versus the Pittsburgh Steelers. This Pittsburgh defense doesn't give up a lot of touchdowns, so I could see Bass attempting 3 or 4 field goals easily in this ball game. And this guy's got a big boot. He don't miss many field goals of late, and the accuracy's there, the confidence is there, and he's on a good team. So each and every week, he's a top 5 option as well, and I got him 5 here. Number 6, Jason Myers of the Seattle Seahawks. Myers with a great matchup this week versus the New York Jets, who give up the most fantasy points to kickers. But this week, I finally see the Seattle Seahawks punching the ball in the end zone and finishing off drives. But Myers, you still got to start him. You still got to play him. He could even hit 7 extra points for all I know in this game. That's how bad this Jet team is, and that's how many opportunities and scores this Seattle Seahawks team could get. So Myers is 6. Number 7, Rodrigo Blankenship of the Indianapolis Colts. Blankenship, he's been pretty good now the last few weeks after slumping for a few weeks. Blankenship's got a good matchup versus the Vegas Raiders. They give up a bunch of points. This game's probably going to be a shootout, especially that it's indoors here in Vegas. And Vegas last week snuck a victory out versus the Jets. And this week versus the Colts, it's going to be a good game, and it might come down to a field goal or 2. Number 8, Jason Myers of the Miami Dolphins. He's got a decent matchup versus a Kansas City Chiefs team, where their defense gives up a lot of field goal attempts. And Jason Sanders, he's been good this season at kicking. Sanders, he's a top 3 in fantasy points for kickers. This week, he's a guy I could start with confidence, and I could expect anywhere from 7 to 10 fantasy points. So I got Sanders at 8. Number 9, Ryan Suckup of the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. He's coming off a bye week, but Suckup, he's been pretty accurate and hitting most of his field goals as the season's gone on. He's on a good team with a good offense. He'll get opportunities. He's got a good matchup versus Minnesota that gives up a bunch of points this year. So Suckup, I think he could be a good start, and I got him 9 here. Number 10, Matt Prater of the Detroit Lions. Prater, he kicks way better when he's home, and this week he's back home versus the Green Bay Packers. It's an indoor game. He's going to get a couple opportunities. The Packers give up the 10th most fantasy points to kickers, and Prater, it seems like when he's home, he gets to attempt a 50-plus yarder each and every game almost. So in this game, I could see him attempting a 50-yarder or two and possibly hitting, because this game, Detroit, they're going to need points almost every drive if they want to pull the upset off here versus Green Bay. Number 11, Daniel Carlson of the Vegas Raiders. Carlson, he's been solid the whole season. This week, though, a tough matchup versus Indianapolis that gives up the fourth least amount of fantasy points to kickers. But I think Carlson, he'll still get a few chances because this Indy team, they're bend but don't break defense, and they're still vulnerable to giving up field goals and touchdowns. Last week, we saw Fairbain hit 2 field goals versus him. So I could see Carlson hitting 2 field goals and maybe a few extra points in this one. So I got him at 11. Number 12, Kaine Fairbain of the Houston Texans. This week, it's an outdoor game for him in one of the worst conditioned fields of all the NFL at the Chicago Bears. But Fairbain, he's been kicking with confidence. He's been hitting long ones. And this week at Chicago, I could see it being in the low 20s in this one, where he's going to attempt 2 or 3 field goals. So I think Fairbain, he has a good shot of getting double digits this week, even versus the Chicago defense. So I got him at 12. Number 13, Graham Gano of the New York Giants. Gano, he was on a good run of double-digit fantasy point games until last week when he broke the streak. But this week versus Arizona, this game I think is going to be more the Giants defense playing tough and holding their opponent down, where the Giants offense still might have some trouble trying to score, where they're going to have to settle for a few field goals if Daniel Jones is out of this ball game again with a hamstring injury. But he's a decent start, and I think he could have a decent game, so I got him at 13. Number 14, Matthew Gay of the Los Angeles Rams. Gay, he's been pretty good filling in for Kai Forbath the last few weeks, and he's a guy I said to go pick up on the waiver wire for kickers, so check that video out if you haven't. And he's got a decent matchup versus the New England Patriots, who have been coming into their own of late on the defensive end. They're a team that's tough to score field goals on. And this Los Angeles Ram team, sometimes they don't finish drives off, and they got to, settle for a field goal. In the last few weeks now, Matthew Gay's had 10 and 8 fantasy points, and I could see him get that many again this week in this range. And the 15th and final kicker is Dustin Hopkins of the Washington football team. He's got double-digit fantasy games at the kicker position now. The last 4 weeks, Hopkins had 14 points versus the Pittsburgh Steelers last week, including a big game-winning field goal down the stretch in that game. And this week versus San Francisco, I think he's going to get more opportunities. It's an indoor game because San Francisco plays in Arizona Stadium now after the breakout in Frisco. So I think Hopkins has a good shot at getting double digits once again this week. So that's the top 15 kickers I'm ranking here heading into Week 14.